I got enough money to get out.
Are you muted?
Mm-hmm.
Hi there, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. So yeah, everyone I think is going to start muted. So if you need to say something, in the bottom left-hand corner, if you're on a computer, there is a little hand. You can raise your hand and then unmute yourself. If you're on your mobile, you'll have to click the settings button and then unmute yourself. So thanks so much for coming. We have a few more we're expecting, so I'll just kill a little time in the meantime and talk to you about kind of why I did this, what my intentions were, and give you a little bit of an intro about myself if I have not previously talked to you. Most of you guys here I actually know in person in real life or have at least met and talked with, but I wanted to do this video specifically for the bluegrass community here in DFW, but also for a little bit of a wider audience. I did advertise it in a couple of different places because I don't think that there's a very simple, bare bones way to go from not jamming online to jamming online. So I put this together, and I'll be putting it up on YouTube after this. If you guys would like a link, feel free to shoot me an email or send me a message on social media or Instagram or anything like that. Let's see, it is 7:02. Alrighty, well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Joshua Adkisson. Like I said, I think I know most of you. I am in no way a professional musician. I am a professional computer engineer, but not a professional audio engineer. And so I would like to do a couple of things in our conversation here today, but I want to talk about online jamming. It's something that I personally didn't think was possible until a few months ago. Obviously, with coronavirus really taking a hit on the jamming community as a whole, music collaboration has been relatively slim. So I took it upon myself to start finding out, hey, is it actually possible? The community that I found is based around a software called Jamulus. It's an open source software. And I'll be including links for these things and talking about them a little more. So if you've ever tried to jam with Zoom or Skype or Hangouts or even this, which is Jitsi, the platform that I'm doing this seminar on, there's a problem with direct audio access. So there's a delay, you can't play together. One of the most important parts of being a musician in a group with other people is feedback, right? And all being on the same tempo, playing along to the same beat. But there's been some advancements in technology. There are obviously high-speed internet has come very far. I have a gig up and down. Don't worry, to actually jam online, you don't actually need a gig up and down. I'm sure it helps and makes that less of an issue, but surprisingly, you only need about 1 megabyte up and down to be able to play online. So this is basically how playing music online works. It looks incredibly complicated. There's the client and the server side. So you have an audio callback that produces sound. It goes through a compression process. It creates a UDP packet. You don't have to worry about what that is. It goes through the network into a jitter buffer where it's then decompressed and mixed together. So all of this is happening simultaneously between all of the players. and it's being sent back, so you can listen to it and you're playing it, and it's all happening in real time. It's a lot simpler in reality, but for the technical people, if you want to understand how it works, this is a very basic diagram. Alrighty, so I did research on each of these softwares. I'll start first with JamKazam because it's been around the longest. It's somewhat of a commercial offering. They have kind of a freemium model, and they also sell backing tracks. One of the great things about JamKazam that I've seen is it actually pairs video, so you can do video conferencing, you can play along with each other as well as a backing track. When I had first looked at JamKazam, they actually sold a physical hardware interface, and that really was intimidating to me because I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if I have the computer for it. I don't know any of this stuff, right? So I ignored the interface, and I was at a Pete Wernick jam camp when I was talking to Larry Kernagas, who was teaching it, and he said that he plays on JamKazam every night. And I was like, well, so you have to buy the device? And he says, no, they tried that, but you can use any device. You just have to have something called an ASIO driver. And we had a little conversation about it, and that's when I decided to really look more into it. And JamKazam doesn't require a special interface. You can use the audio of your computer. It's available for Windows and Mac. The next one is Jamulus. That's the one that I use pretty regularly. It's open source. There's a really, really big community, both on Facebook and Instagram, to collaborate together to find times to jam and to create servers. And I'll explain a little bit more about what that means later on. Ninjam is a product that was made by the same company that makes Reaper. Reaper is a commercial software that allows for audio routing, and it's also a digital audio workstation. It's pretty popular. It's pretty heavily used in the musician community, but it's kind of proprietary, and then it's peer-to-peer, so it's harder to work in groups and things like that. Also, SoundJack, which I believe is the same thing as Jack Trip. It's another open source product, but again, that is more peer-to-peer. I play with you only versus playing with multiple people. So these are the softwares that I really focused on, and essentially came down to Jamulus for a couple of reasons. Ease of use, the ability to install and to use hardware that I already had laying around the house. I'll explain what that hardware means. Now, before I actually get into the configuration and the playability of this, I'm going to say that every software that you choose to use is going to have configuration. That is going to be different for every single person. You're going to have different hardware than the next person. But if you Google it, you can usually find what you're looking for if you're having trouble, or the settings. But again, I did choose Jamulus because I found it to be easier to set up overall. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end, by the way. If you guys have questions, which I'm assuming you will. I'm actually hoping you will. I might not be able to answer all of them, but I'll do what I can to answer as many as I can. So your best practices are essentially your own. What does that mean? Well, it means that there's not a right or a wrong way to do anything. If you can get it connected and you're playing online, does it really matter? And I would say no, it doesn't, because what we're missing is the community of playing together. So let's talk about hardware. What kind of hardware do you need to actually jam online in a real world community on the computer? Well, if you're a vocalist, you're going to need at least a microphone, right? That connects to your computer. You're not going to need much else than that because you have one instrument. If you're an instrumentalist, you need something to connect your instrument to the computer. And then if you're a vocalist and instrumentalist and you want to have both, you have a couple of options there. You can either go with an interface, which allows multiple devices connected into that one stream, or you can just use a regular microphone. And if your instrument is an acoustic instrument, you can do both at the same time with one microphone. The difference is you have to be a real musician now. You have to control your volume of your vocals and control the volume of your instrument at the same time. There's no sliders. We can't turn you down. So if your other jammers are having trouble hearing your voice or hearing your instrument, there's no knob they can turn. You're going to have to play louder, or you're going to have to sing louder or softer. And that's really the only setup per se is the hardware and the software side of it. Now there's hundreds of audio interfaces, there's hundreds of microphones. People get really flustered. They're like, well, I don't know what's good, what's bad. Well, I have some recommendations. They're not set in stone recommendations because you might already have something sitting around your house. I have a bunch of crap sitting around my house, and I was able to make it work without actually buying anything. But some people want recommendations, so I got some. This first microphone here it's kind of a cheapie. I purchased it actually just for the ability to show. Now I do want to mention I have some links here where you can actually purchase these items. If you click the links or you type them into your browser, I do get a kickback. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It's just an affiliate link that allows me to make a little money for doing this presentation. So if you do decide to purchase some of these pieces of hardware, I would ask that you please use the link and as a way of saying thank you to me. So the first one, it's got some nice pros, and then it's only about $27. That was shipped. It was shipped from Amazon, 2-day shipping if you have Prime. It has a built-in mute button, which is great. You can actually adjust your input volume. It's a normal condenser with a knob on it. One of the cons is that it does not have an output. So you're going to have to configure your software to put out to your headphones in whatever way that the software needs to be configured. The next one is one that I use the most often. It's a Blue Yeti. It's a little bit pricier of an option. It's about $130 on Amazon. It's got 4 cardioid patterns. That's not really complicated. It just means it's a specific shape around the microphone that it can record. You can have it to where it's front and back if you're wanting to do more of an interview style, or different patterns based upon your playability or your vocals. It also has a mute button on it and a volume knob. One of the things that I really like about this one is that underneath the bottom there's actually a headphone jack that you can plug your headphones directly into. So it's one interface, you plug your headphones into it, and it's your microphone. It's great for acoustic instruments. It's great for vocalists. It is incredibly sensitive because it's a condenser microphone. So I actually use a big click pop filter on mine. It just sits on top of it right there, and it keeps those clicks and pops out of the playability and recording. Next, we're going to go to talking about interfaces. So interfaces are going to be a scenario where you already have your own equipment or cables, or you have this great microphone that you really love and you like the way you sound with it. You can purchase an interface for that. Now, I have a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 that I use. It has 2 inputs, so I can do an instrument and vocals at the same time. But the base model is called the Solo. You can still do an instrument and a microphone through XLR, but your instrument's going to be limited to that 1/4-inch jack. So they all have at least 2 inputs. I think the 4i4 has 4. These don't have MIDI drivers on the back. If you're a MIDI player, there is no MIDI port on this. The 2i2, I believe, has MIDI, and the Behringer also has MIDI. That is coming up next. It is a little expensive. It's about $100. You're currently listening to me through the Focusrite 2i2. I have just a regular XLR condenser mic, the MXL 1022, that I am speaking to you now on. I like it. I like the interface because it's got knobs. Rather than having to adjust slider bars in software, you can just turn yourself down, you can turn your headphones up, and it allows you direct monitor. The next one on our list is the PreSonus Audio Box USB 96. This one's incredibly popular. I spent a lot of time initially on Jamulus just going into rooms and listening to what other people were doing, and I found that it was just a lot of people asking if they could be heard. Can you hear me? Does it work? And no actual music being played for a long time, which is one of the reasons why I was like, I'm going to do this video. I think that as long as you connect everything correctly, you're going to be fine. So moving on, if you're a big spender and you're like, I don't want to deal with piecing together this whole system, I just want to buy everything all in one, you can purchase the Focusrite Scarlett 4i4 bundle, or they even have a 2i2 bundle and a solo bundle. But it includes headphones, a microphone, and XLR cable to connect that to get you up and started quickly. Now, all of those things are hardware that you would have to purchase. Now, if you have a laptop or a desktop that already has a microphone, or you already have headphones, you can use all of that. It's absolutely easy to use. If you have a USB microphone, chances are you can get that USB microphone to work. If you have just the regular plug-in microphone and it's cheap and it works, it will work. Don't worry about it. You don't have to go out and buy something necessarily. You might want to upgrade later. All right, so let's talk about the brass tacks of online jamming. So latency is a word that comes up quite often because we're trying to be as real time as possible. That's the goal of jamming online, is to get as little latency, which is the amount of time it takes your audio to reach your collaborators. So that's the speed of your network, but it's also the speed of the audio coming out of your own mouth or instrument that's being processed into the computer and then sent over the network and then remixed and then sent back. So what you're looking for is the lowest latency that you can possibly have. There are different approaches and ways to reduce latency, but all of them are going to start with making sure that you're hardwired on everything. No wireless. That's no wireless internet, no Bluetooth headphones, no Bluetooth microphones, no Bluetooth instruments. This has to be a wired setup because of latency. You're working through the internet. Otherwise, then you start having those same problems with Zoom. Now, I know most people now on their computers are using wireless. The question that I got when I was talking to a couple of other people about this was, why isn't there a smartphone app? Wi-Fi. So you're not going to be able to do this with your phone. You're not going to be able to do this with your tablet. You have to be on a Mac PC or Linux computer. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. But so another thing is to wear headphones, wired headphones. They're a pain because they have a wire on them. I love my Bluetooth headphones. I have a wonderful headset. It's Bluetooth and it's open ear and it's great. But ultimately, a pair of $6 headphones are what you're going to need to monitor both yourself because of the way that the latency is going to work, especially when you're dealing with long distances. So while we're talking about latency, I want to talk about the concept of geography as it relates. So one of the reasons why I wanted to speak specifically to DFW people is because I want to jam with DFW people. But you're somewhat limited by your geography because of network speeds. Now, that is not to say that you can't jam with people out of state. I consistently am able on Monday nights to jam with Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I have been able to even participate in a world jam that was in Germany. The latency was very, very high, but there is a skill that you kind of develop after you start online jamming a little bit. And it has to do with hearing your voice from the mix rather than listening to your voice coming out of your own mouth. You'll understand what that means the first time you get hooked up. You'll go, oh, okay, so I'm listening to I have to match the sound coming back to me. It's not hard to get the hang of, but with being at closer geographies, you're going to have less of trouble with that. It's going to be, that skill is not really going to be necessary because you're going to have ultimately very low latencies. There is a way to measure it. There's numbers in milliseconds associated with it. So I'll show you where to find those numbers, and Jamulus actually makes that pretty easy. So I want to do the Jamulus install. I'm going to do it on a Windows PC, but it's essentially the same for Mac minus one step, this step 2 for this ASIO for all driver. But most people are using Windows. Let's take a look here at installation. And so we're going to go to the Jamulus.io website. And they have a big button there that says Get Started Now, and the bottom says Download Now. Now, if you click the Get Started Now, it will walk you through all of these directions, and you can do it yourself. It explains which version you need to download, what you have to download, explains ping times and latency in a little bit more detail there. But I already know that I'm downloading this for Windows, so I'm going to install it on Windows. It explains the need for the ASIO driver. There's so much information on this website, and it's all really, really good. So I do recommend that you take some time and read it if you decide to get this installed. But I've already pre-downloaded it here, and all I'm going to do is run the installer. Not much to it, just a small window. You agree to their information. It asks you where you want to install it. And this is the boring part. And that's installed. And now we're going to install the ASIO driver. Now, the ASIO driver, ASIO stands for Audio Stream Input Output. And essentially what that is it is a way that your computer can have direct access to the audio that's coming from your microphone or interface or device. Again, accept the agreements. I always select the rewushel and offline settings. And the reason why is because if you're not connected to Jamulus or not using the ASIO for all driver, you can't access the settings of it unless you have this offline settings. And then rewire is if you're using Reason, the Reason software that I was talking about earlier. Just check them all. Worst case scenario, you have some stuff that you'll never really use. Best case scenario, if you ever need it, it's there. Again, quick install, and that is finished. Now, I'm going to bring up the Jamulus software for you to see here. And you should be able to see that pretty well. There's not a lot to it, right? It's just, it looks like kind of a soundboard mixer situation. What you're not able to see, and I will add that as well, is this list that comes up of available servers. And it conveniently lists them by ping time, green, yellow, and red, to let you know what your connection and playability experience is going to be like in each of these servers. Now, I have TX Bluegrass Jam. That's a server that I run from my home. You're more than welcome to connect to it and use it at any time. As you can see, I have my other computer connected to it already. But I'm going to just connect to that there. And I'm going to remove this window. And as you can see, I have big text in there in Joshua, and that's just this is just an example so you can see how it's going to work. Now you have a button here that's delay. That'll show you what your latency is like. Green obviously is going to be good, moving toward red, which would be bad. And buffers, again, same thing, green, yellow, red, green good, red bad. You have the ability to mute yourself if you just want to listen. And then there's a settings window. And it automatically sets the ASIO driver. Now you can control the mix of what's being fed into your headphones. You're not controlling their volume. You're controlling their volume in your headphones. So it's like having a personal monitor. It's just like a normal soundboard. And you can say, hey, I really don't like that guy who's playing saxophone in a bluegrass jam. And so you can mute them all together. Or if you're in a group and people are still using the server. Now these servers are public. They're not private. So these are people who've put their servers out there, and you can hop onto them and you can play on them. A lot of them are going to be empty. That's great. Try to find an empty one if you're trying to start a jam. But that's pretty much it. I mean, you get the software installed, you get the driver installed, and your hardware is ultimately what's going to be that. So let me show you what this ASIO driver connection it looks like here. ASIO offline settings. And I'll just take this guy here. There we go. Okay, so this window, I can choose my interface. Essentially, whatever you want to record with inside of Jamulus, you're just going to press the power button next to it, and just make sure it's on. That's it. The hardest part is obviously going to be connecting up your hardware and making sure that the drivers are installed and all that. That is mostly going to be taken care of with modern operating systems, with Windows 7, with Windows 10. It'll be basically done for you. Let's see here. I'm going to go back to my slideshow here. All right. So one of the things I really want to press there is this is easy. It's basic software to install and a little bit of configuration. But once it's done, you just jam. You get on a server, and sometimes like on my Texas Bluegrass Jam server, this is audio only. There's no video. So I have a little link when you log in to, let's see if I can show you. Where is, it's called chat. When you log in, that you see Texas Bluegrass Jam, click here for the video chat room and mute your microphone in the video chat. It's just so that the audio doesn't overlap. And when you click on that, it'll take you to a room. You can be on video, and you can have a conversation with the other musicians that you're playing with to make. I was talking about the install. So that's really the installation. You're done. You've installed the software. It's free. There's no licenses. I mean, this is it. If you already have a microphone, you can literally start this tonight. I do want to allow this time though. It's about 7:30, so we're halfway through this. I originally set it for an hour, but if you have questions, I wanted to allow plenty of question time. And if we run out of questions before the hour's up, then I'll give you back some of your time. So let's take a couple of minutes and do some questions and answers.
I have a question.
All right.
I installed this about 2 months ago. I think you and I, Joshua, had kind of chatted about that, and then work blew up and got busy, and then I didn't have a chance to do it. But I kept having trouble afterwards. The quality wasn't there. It was really distorted and bad, and I really couldn't troubleshoot it. And then I got busy and didn't have a chance to figure it out.
Sure.
Has that come up with you before?
Well, let's talk about some specifics. What microphone are you using?
Well, I'm using this guy right here, a little Zoom recorder.
Okay.
And it works well. It plugs right into my computer, and I use it on Jamulus. I was on that for a while, just but and it works fine. It's a great little interface, and I have had no trouble with it before. So maybe that's it. Maybe it doesn't work and play well with.
Well, no, not necessarily. So you've installed the ASIO driver, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you actually are connected, and everything works.
Yeah, it definitely worked. It just didn't sound good at all. It sounded really bad.
And how are your headphones connected to your computer?
I actually just connect. I could either connect to. I'm running this on a MacBook Pro.
Okay.
So I could either listen to it through the system headphone setting there, but I typically just listen to it through the Zoom recorder. I plug in my headphones there.
Okay, that is a good technique. Now, what kind of servers were you connecting to, and what's your latency look like generally?
Boy, I don't remember. It's been some time since I've done that. But as I recall, the latency was not bad. It was somewhere around 10, 12, maybe.
Yeah, that's actually good latency. Well, I will say this. So I am using this opportunity today to start every Thursday at 7 o'clock. I'm going to start doing an online jam on my server for DFW people, so we can actually start making music together again. So if you'd like, after we're done with the presentation and the video, I can work with you one-on-one and see if we can troubleshoot it.
That would be awesome. I may need to do that at a different time, though. I've got something I'm going to probably have to bail out here in about 5-10 minutes anyway, just because I've got something else going.
That's fine. Just reach out to me however you want to, and we can set up a time to take a look at it.
Sure, and I may be able to figure it out. Like I say, when I started doing it, it didn't work. And then the phone rang, and I haven't been back to it since. So I probably could figure it out. I'll give it the old college try, and then if I can't do it, I'll reach out to you for some adult supervision.
All right. Well, that sounds good. Happy to help.
Good. Thank you.
Braden, you got anything?
Yes, I actually do have one question. We were talking about interfaces earlier, and you mentioned just different specific kinds of interfaces. I actually have one that I've used, on and off for the last few years because I do some of my own recording. Would the Jamulus, or what I guess what I'm trying to ask here is, could you use just about any type of interface with Jamulus, or is it regulated to those kinds that you recommended?
No, I mean it's not regulated to the kinds I recommended. I recommended ones that are one, easily accessible to everybody, and two, they're technically not very complicated. So if you already have an interface that you like, absolutely. I even have some here. Let's see. I have some of the interfaces that I've come across. This one is the Scarlett Solo. I have, let's see, the Presonus audio box again. I talked about a couple of these. Here's one that I literally just pulled up randomly. I was just like, hey, what is this? And I asked a couple of the Jamulus folks about it, and they were like, oh yeah, I have that one, and it's $75, and it works great, and I love it. That doesn't matter. The interface is essentially just a means of getting your instrument into your computer and then routing the information from there. What really routes it is that ASIO driver if you're on Windows. If you're on Mac actually doesn't need the driver.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm gonna kick out the other version of myself here. What interface do you have? Just curious.
I'd have to go look at it. I can't pronounce the name right off the top of my head. It's made by a German company,
Okay.
but I bought it several years ago because when I was in college, I actually had to take some audio engineering courses.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up buying. There was a certain kind of interface that all my professors like really just raved over.
Was it the Mbox?
Say that one more time.
Was it Mbox or a Steinberg?
Steinberg. Yes.
Okay, so I have a Steinberg UR22.
Yes, that's what I have as well.
Okay, so that one works fine. And honestly, they don't sell them anymore. They've been like discontinued. But I have zero problems using that on Linux, on Windows, and I've tested it on Mac as well without any issues. This is another like kind of cheapy bundle that I found that is also pretty good. Same thing, kind of like the Blue Yeti. They're definitely a knockoff. But yeah, I mean, I even have some interfaces here like this one, $13. If you just have a basic, 1/8-inch microphone and a basic 1/8-inch headphone, you can get online and play with these cheap interfaces just as well as you'd be playing with the expensive ones.
All right.
Has it changed on your video? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. There and there's even one for $7.99. This little Sabrent $7.99er. I mean, literally all you need is a method to get either your voice or your instrument into your computer, and then it's just a routing issue from there.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions?
No, looking forward to your jams on Thursday. That'll be fun. It'll be great. I haven't played it with anybody in, since February, I guess.
I know it's
been a long time, so I would love to, even virtually, I mean, I'm sure there'll be a learning curve in terms of, learning to play against the latency and how to factor that into the way that you play and all that. But,
sure.
Anyway, it'd still be fun. I mean, even just the stuff that I've done on Jam Kazam a couple of times, and I don't do much on that because, frankly, I found the talent to be kind of lacking. And it was just sort of, I don't know, the experience was not really what I hoped it would be, just because there weren't a lot of great people on there playing. And it was like, oh boy, this is difficult. So anyway, it'd be good to play with some people around here that we know and that can play better. And
for sure,
I think the experience will be more, more fulfilling.
Sure, conducive.
Yeah, right.
Good. Well, if there are no more questions, I do wish you guys luck. Again, if you log on to the All Genres Jamulus Central server, I'm there under Texas Bluegrass Jam, and it's on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're more than welcome to use my server for whatever you need. If any of you need links for the hardware, shoot me a message. I can send those over to you. Yeah, and let's see. I think that is the last slide. It is. Yep, that is the last slide. We're good to go then. I really appreciate you guys being here. If you would like the link on YouTube, I'm going to be posting this to YouTube for reuse for anybody who might want to view it later. Please feel free to send me a message, and I will send it out on YouTube as well.
All right, Joshua, thank you for pulling this together.